At first glance, Long Island feels like the kind of place where nothing truly terrible could happen. Neat streets, luxury beach homes, quiet nights filled with the endless rhythm of crashing waves. But just beyond the dunes of Gilgo Beach, something unspeakable lay hidden for years, so close to the road that thousands of cars passed by it every day without knowing what was buried beneath the sand. For over a decade, a killer lived undetected, leaving behind a trail of missing women while maintaining a life that appeared completely normal. And when the truth finally surfaced, it revealed one of the most chilling double lives in modern American crime. The case began to unravel in the early morning hours of May 1, 2010. At 4:50 a.m., 24-year-old Shanann Gilbert, an escort from New Jersey, made a frantic 911 call from a gated community in Oak Beach.
Oh, stop it, please. Stop it, please. Please stop it. Please stop it. No.
In the 23-minute 911 phone call released by police from 2010, we hear Shanann Gilbert go from scared for her life to confused.
Why are you calling me by my name?
What's the matter? Are you okay?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do to me?
Let's go back to Manhattan.
Police say that's the voice of Michael Pack, Gilbert's bodyguard. Police say Pack drove Gilbert to the home of Joseph Brewer in Ocean Beach. Brewer had hired Gilbert, who was a sex worker.
Please, can you shut the door?
No, time to go.
Please, something's going to happen to me.
There's nobody outside. You're okay, right?
After that, Gilbert runs out of the house. She starts knocking on people's doors. Those people call 911 too.
43 the Bayou. Some woman is knocking at my door. She says she's in danger.
The last thing we hear on the call is Gilbert running again.
Her voice was filled with panic as she told the dispatcher, "They're trying to kill me." Neighbors later reported seeing her running through the streets, knocking on doors, begging for help before vanishing into the darkness of the surrounding marshland. Police arrived shortly after, but Shanann was gone. What officers didn't know was that their search for her would uncover something far more disturbing. While combing Ocean Parkway with a K-9 unit, investigators discovered human remains wrapped in burlap, buried just off the highway. Within days, 3 more bodies were found nearby. None of them were Shanann. The victims were later identified as Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, and Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 4 women who had disappeared between 2007 and 2010. All were sex workers. All were found bound and discarded in nearly identical ways. They became known as the Gilgo Four. As searches expanded, more remains emerged, partial skeletons scattered across Suffolk and Nassau counties. By the end, at least 10 victims had been discovered. Shanann's body wasn't found until December 2011, hidden in thick reeds less than half a mile from where she disappeared. Her belongings lay scattered nearby. Authorities ruled her death accidental, claiming she drowned while disoriented. But for many, that explanation only deepened the mystery and raised even darker questions about what truly happened along Gilgo Beach.
All the women in this case.
I'm worried about if she suffered.
Gilbert's family says on that night Shanann met with a man she met on Craigslist at the beach in Long Island. They say police have talked to the man and he has taken a lie detector test. Despite her lifestyle, the family says the Shanann they remember was filled with love and promise.
But there was this big question. Is one of those 4 women Shanann Gilbert?
Police refuse to discuss leads in the case or if any of the bodies might be those of Shanann Gilbert or Megan Waterman, 2 prostitutes who disappeared in Suffolk County in May and June. Now the efforts continue to identify the women, but officials caution progress will be very slow.
They tell us that it can take up to 30 days to have that examination complete.
There was this momentous occasion every now and then where they'd gather all the press together and they'd make some announcement. And the announcement was always a big deal. We have a name on this person we know more about.
To this day, Shanann's death remains a haunting mystery. For years, police couldn't tell if they were looking for one killer or many. Leads dried up, tips went nowhere. And by 2015, the case had gone completely cold. Families were left with nothing but grief and the terrifying thought that the killer was still out there. Then, in 2022, everything changed. A new multi-agency task force quietly reopened the Gilgo Beach investigation. They started from scratch, reanalyzing every phone record, every vehicle sighting, every fiber, and every digital trace. Months later, one pattern stood out, a pattern that had been overlooked for over a decade. Cell tower records tied burner phones used by the killer to contact victims to a small geographic triangle.
Just in the last couple of minutes, we have seen just off in the distance a cadaver dog that was brought out here really in the last 10 minutes to continue the search because police do not know if there are any more bodies out there.
We're looking at that we could have a serial killer. We're looking at that we could have a serial killer. And these victims may have engaged in prior to their murders does not matter. They were young women whose lives were cut tragically short.
Maureen Brainerd Barnes was from Norwich, Connecticut. Melissa Bartholomew was from Buffalo, New York. Megan Waterman from Scarborough, Maine. And Amber Lynn Costello was from North Babylon on Long Island.
Investigators say all 4 women were prostitutes who advertised their services on Craigslist, each of them vanishing sometime in the past 4 years. Police say the women, all in their 20s, were murdered elsewhere, dumped by their killer along the side of Ocean Parkway on this windswept section of Gilgo Beach.
Midtown Manhattan, Massapequa Park, and a nearby architectural firm. That firm belonged to a man named Rex Heuermann. He was 59, an architect, a husband, a father of 2. He worked in Manhattan by day, commuted home to the suburbs at night, and waved politely to neighbors. He coached his kids, shopped at local stores, and looked like everyone else. But investigators were starting to realize that behind that normal exterior was something far more sinister. In January 2023, detectives began following him, collecting DNA from discarded trash, tracking his car, and monitoring his movements. The key breakthrough came from something as ordinary as a pizza crust. Heuermann threw it out near his Manhattan office. Forensic testing confirmed it. The DNA on that crust matched a hair found on the burlap that wrapped one of the Gilgo Four.
Heuermann is set to stand trial. Live to CBS News correspondent Shanann Call. Okay, Shanann, what happened this morning? What does this mean for the case?
Hey, Reed. So Judge Timothy Massey essentially ruled today that Rex Heuermann will have just one trial, meaning his charges wouldn't be broken up into multiple trials, which actually is what Heuermann's defense team was pushing for. Now, the defense was also, Reed, pushing for a second time to omit DNA evidence in this trial. Look, they argued that evidence was improperly collected, but again today, the judge declined that challenge as well. Now, just to catch you up on this case, the 62-year-old is the accused Gilgo Beach serial killer. He's pleaded not guilty to charges that he killed 7 women. Authorities, Reed, say those women worked as escorts. The Suffolk County Prosecutor's Office said last week that it is ready for this trial to begin, though the judge today did not set a date for that trial. We're expecting Heuermann's next court appearance to happen on January 13th next year.
When investigators raided his Massapequa Park home, what they found looked like the inside of a serial killer's playbook. Over 280 firearms, a locked vault filled with bondage equipment, disguises, fake IDs, and more than 200 electronic devices, phones, hard drives, and computers. Hidden cameras covered every inch of the property. When police cracked open his computer drives, the search history spoke volumes. Bodies found in Gilgo, torture porn, how to make victims disappear. Investigators said Heuermann lived 2 lives. By day, he was an architect known for his precision. By night, he was a predator who used dating sites and escort ads under fake names, cycling through disposable phones to avoid detection. Digital forensics later revealed he revisited online profiles of his victims even after they vanished. He kept trophies, according to prosecutors, jewelry, eats, and mementos. And DNA from his wife's hair was found on the burlap that wrapped 2 of the victims. Police confirmed she was out of state during the killings, but her hair, likely shed at home, traveled with him to the scenes. That detail painted a picture of obsession, control, and ritual. In 2024, new indictments were added. 2 more victims, both women who fit the same pattern, were linked to him through phone and DNA evidence. The judge denied bail, calling the case overwhelming, deliberate, and deeply disturbing. By 2025, prosecutors took things further. Using advanced DNA methods, probabilistic genotyping, they re-examined the burlap and binding material. The results confirmed what the task force had long suspected. Genetic evidence tied to Heuermann's line existed on multiple victims. It was the kind of forensic precision that wasn't even possible back in 2010. Around the same time, investigators began re-examining unsolved disappearances in nearby states. A Connecticut woman who went missing under similar circumstances was found to have matching fibers on her clothing and a digital trail that crossed paths with Heuermann's burner phones. So far, no new charges have been filed, but prosecutors haven't ruled it out. Inside the courtroom, Heuermann sits motionless, his face blank, his hands clasped on the table. He's pleaded not guilty, insisting he's the victim of a smear campaign. But the mountain of evidence keeps growing.
Take a step back. Let's talk about a search warrant for a second, because usually what is it listed as items to be searched for in a search warrant? We know that they're looking at his house. They're looking at storage lockers. Walk us through what's supposed to be listed.
Well, number one is a search warrant has to have a list. Just part of the United States Constitution is search warrants have to be particular. They can't say, "Hi, we'd like to search your house for God knows what." So presumably it lists clothing of the victims, souvenirs, a horrible term, right? But things kept from the victims, the type of materials used to wrap the bodies, maybe phone records or things showing communications. Hopefully they will have a list of particular items that we would logically think could connect to this crime.
Even his family has started to distance themselves. In March 2025, his daughter Victoria appeared in a documentary, saying she believes her father most likely did it. Her statement made national headlines and shifted public opinion overnight. For many, that was the final confirmation not from prosecutors, but from his own blood.
Rex Heuermann's estranged wife also showed up in court in support. New evidence is being turned over in the case, and Heuermann's defense is turning their focus now on who they believe is the real killer. News Force Greg Sergel is in Riverhead with more.
The pool camera that captured Rex Heuermann in court today showed a man who has now spent about 9 months behind bars. The alleged Gilgo serial killer is still waiting for his trial date to be set.
He wants to get to trial. He wants to get to trial yesterday, but he is being patient.
Michael Brown says Heuermann continues to insist he didn't kill the 4 sex workers whose remains were found buried almost 14 years ago along Ocean Parkway.
Also, how are you feeling today?
Heuermann's estranged wife said nothing after watching today's brief court appearance. Last month, Asa Ellerup released a statement saying she didn't believe that Heuermann was capable of these murders.
Meanwhile, Suffolk County prosecutors revealed that more than $13 million in previously frozen federal funds were finally released this year. Money dedicated to expanding forensic testing and ensuring every unidentified victim gets a name. The official count now sits at 7 confirmed victims, but authorities quietly admit the true number may be higher. Heuermann's defense argues that the DNA is contaminated, that the phone records are coincidental, but prosecutors describe the case as a web of lies unraveled by science, and they're ready to prove it. The trial is expected to begin later this year. When it does, the world will finally see how a man who built homes for others allegedly constructed something far darker, an illusion of normal life, built on the bodies of women he thought no one would miss. The names of the victims, Melissa, Megan, Amber, and Maureen, are no longer silent. Their stories live on, their families finally have answers, and the community that once lived in fear now demands justice. So next time you walk a quiet beach, remember calm waves can hide violent secrets, and evil doesn't always lurk in the shadows. Sometimes it lives right next door. If you want more stories like this, real cases where truth, control, and cruelty